When you find love, you find it. I mean, it finds you, I should say. Between me and her, it was so instant. We were so much like each other that it made sense.
Crack is cheap. I make too much money to ever smoke crack. Let's get that straight, okay? We don't do crack. We don't do that. Crack is whack.
What if I told you that one of the most celebrated stars in music history wasn't just failed by her struggles, but by the very people who were supposed to protect her? Whitney Houston's tragic story has been told time and time again, but today, we're diving into revelations that are so shocking, they'll make you question everything you thought you knew about her inner circle. Buckle up, because this isn't your average Hollywood story. It's a deep dive into betrayal, greed, and a love story that almost was.
You were the one that led Whitney to heavy drug use.
It wasn't me.
So, let's set the scene. Whitney Houston, the voice of a generation, adored by millions, and a superstar whose life appeared to be perfect on the surface. But behind the glamour and Grammys was a woman struggling with addiction, bad relationships, and an entourage that some claim enabled her darkest moments. And now, the very bodyguard who inspired the iconic film The Bodyguard has come forward with a tell-all book. And trust me, it's not what you think. David Roberts, a British ex-police officer and Whitney's real-life protector during the height of her fame, is finally breaking his silence. In his memoir, Protecting Whitney, set to release next month, Roberts isn't spilling dirt on Whitney herself. Instead, he's calling out the people who let her spiral into addiction for the sake of their own pockets. And get this, he claims that he was fired for trying to save her. Yep, fired for doing his job. According to Roberts, Whitney's descent into addiction was no accident. He paints a grim picture of an industry that's fueled by greed, where enablers kept Whitney hooked because, well, a functioning addict still makes money.
Fool people, you can fool anybody, any time of the day, but you can't fool yourself. At night, when you go home, you gotta be straight up with you and know, when the stuff is good and when the stuff is bad, and deal with it.
He recalls one chilling moment in 1995 while Whitney was filming the legendary Waiting to Exhale. Roberts claims she overdosed on set, an incident that was covered up to protect her image. Can you imagine? The Queen of Pop, one of the most beloved voices in history, silently suffering behind the scenes while the world adored her from afar. Roberts says he tried to intervene, writing a letter to Whitney's lawyers to expose the members of her entourage who were supplying her with drugs. And what was his reward? A pink slip. That's right. He was fired a week later and never spoke to Whitney again. It's heartbreaking to think that someone who genuinely cared for her well-being was silenced for trying to do the right thing. But Roberts doesn't stop there. In the book, he takes aim at Bobby Brown, Whitney's ex-husband. He describes their relationship as toxic, a roller coaster of love and chaos. While Roberts acknowledges that Whitney and Bobby loved each other deeply, he suggests that their love wasn't enough to overcome the dysfunction. He even compares their marriage to domestic violence cases he'd seen as a police officer, where victims would alternately demand justice and then beg to protect their abuser. It's a painful but powerful analogy that highlights just how complicated their relationship really was. And here's the twist. Roberts admits that he had strong feelings for Whitney himself. While there was no romance between them,
Well, that was the first time I had actually saw her do drugs.
Cocaine.
Yes, ma'am.
What went through your mind when you saw that?
The drugs wasn't her. She did drugs, but the drugs didn't do her.
he confesses that if Whitney had shown interest, he would have given up everything for her. He describes a poignant moment when Whitney laid her head on his shoulder, a memory that stayed with him all these years. It's a bittersweet revelation that adds yet another layer to this heartbreaking story. As shocking as these revelations are, they're just the tip of the iceberg. Roberts also claims that the entertainment industry itself was one of Whitney's biggest abusers. He describes a system that demanded she perform and produce, no matter the toll it took on her health. And when she struggled, instead of offering help, the industry turned a blind eye, as long as the money kept rolling in. One of the most gut-wrenching details in Roberts' account is his description of Whitney's final years. He believes that her tragic death in 2012 at the age of 48 could have been prevented if only those around her had cared more about her well-being than their own bottom lines. It's a haunting reminder of how fame can isolate and destroy even the brightest stars.
It's horrible. It's kind of funny. You go, are they booing me? And they say, yeah. You go, oh, how nice. You know, you're not black enough for them, you know. I don't know, you're not R&B enough. You're very the right audience have taken you away from them.
But Roberts isn't the only one speaking out. Kim Burrell, a close friend of Whitney's, has also written a book about their friendship. While Burrell's account focuses more on personal anecdotes and Whitney's spiritual journey, Roberts' memoir is a scathing indictment of the people and systems that failed her. Together, these books paint a complex and tragic picture of a woman who is both deeply loved and devastatingly let down. Now, let's talk about the public's reaction. As news of Roberts' book has spread, fans have been divided.
Whitney is not gay. That is a story on that. The only gayness I feel is when I'm happy, honey. That's it.
That's all that really matters.
That's all.
Some applaud him for shedding light on the darker aspects of Whitney's life, while others accuse him of profiting off her pain. It's a fair criticism, but Roberts insists that his motive isn't financial gain. He says he wrote the book out of anger and frustration. Anger at the enablers who let Whitney suffer, and frustration that he couldn't do more to help her. So, what do we make of all this? Whitney Houston's story is a cautionary tale about the perils of fame, the dangers of addiction, and the importance of having people around you who truly care. It's a story that's as relevant today as it was during her lifetime, especially as we continue to see other stars struggle with similar issues. And while Roberts' revelations are undoubtedly painful to hear, they also serve as a powerful reminder that behind every superstar is a human being who deserves love, respect, and protection. As we wait for Protecting Whitney to hit the shelves, one thing is clear. The conversation about Whitney Houston's life and legacy is far from over. And maybe, just maybe, this book will help us better understand the woman behind the voice. A woman who gave the world so much, even as it took so much from her in return. So, what do you think? Are Roberts' revelations a necessary part of understanding Whitney's story, or do they cross the line? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of your favorite celebrities. Until next time, stay curious and stay kind.